Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. Tonight I would like to talk to you about planet Nibiru. So the topic of my talk will be Nibiru, the night comer, hour zero and beyond. I will try to bring into light the backside of the coin, the well-kept hidden secrets of Nibiru, planet of the crossing, also known as the destroyer or the purifier. Okay, now, there is a lot of information about Nibiru, so I'm gonna try to avoid to speak about what other people already brought to the table. I would try to bring new information that nobody is talking about, which is in itself a lot more important, because in my humble opinion, I find that these people all are talking about the symptoms, what they are seeing around them, and I'm not saying that's not important. It is very important, but it does not address the problem from the root. Okay, so by my contribution I would like to bring to you the Islamic perspective of this planet called Nibiru, which is actually a star. Okay, so here we will begin. In Islamic literature, this Nibiru is known under the name the night comer, or star with long tail, snake-like. It was mentioned in the Holy Quran in various chapters, so there is occurrence in different chapters of the Holy Book of the Muslim. It was mentioned under the name Sijil, Sakar, which literally Sakar is hell itself. It was also named the knocker. That means he who comes at night and knock on the door, because this planet, what will happen the previous night to the flyby, it will come and it will knock. When I say this, many people don't understand exactly what does it mean, but I'll try to come back later to that point. It's about the electromagnetic field of this planet Nibiru. So the night previous to the flyby, there'll be kind of collision between the electromagnetic field of the Earth and that of the night comer. Okay, it was also called in the Holy Quran the whip of the Lord's wrath. Okay, so there is also mentioned in the Holy Book that this planet caused the destruction of many previous civilizations. For instance, Ad and Thamud. These are two ancient civilizations who were, according to the Holy Book, far more advanced to our modern society. They were a lot more advanced in knowledge, technology, and they were far more powerful, let us say, in physical posture. Well, that's another discussion in itself. Anyway, so the destruction of these two ancient civilization, was caused by the flyby of this same nightcomer, the destroyer that we are talking about. Also, when the Holy Scripture speaks about the people of Lot, who was the cousin of the prophet Abraham, peace be upon both of them, it states that the destruction of the people of Lot, known to the biblical people as Gomorrah, Sodom and Gomorrah, these two cities, actually they were destroyed by the coming of this planet nightcomer, okay, by the destroyer itself. So according to Islamic prophecy, the nightcomer will cross and fly by Earth proximity along its trajectory between Jupiter and Mars and continue its orbit into a higher position to the ecliptic plane. That's why they call it the planet of the crossing, because it comes from a lower position to the ecliptic, and it crosses into the upper direction, you know, to continue towards the sun, and then it will turn around the sun. At that time people will see it very clearly, because the luminous tail will make it very apparent, you know, and once it turns around the sun, then it will look like an anaconda, a long snake that's wrapping its body around a ball of fire, which is the sun. Anyway, it will become very visible, as I said, but for the time being, you know, many people are trying to present pictures and you know, shots from the satellite and all that stuff. The truth is, only governments do have the technology to see planet Nibiru, because it's a dark planet. That's why they call it a dark dwarf. It does not emit light, it does emit heat, and according to Islamic literature, it's a lot bigger than planet Earth. Okay, anyway, as I said, I will try to avoid to mention what other people have already mentioned, because there is a lot of information. So I will try to stick to the Islamic perspective concerning this planet, with the hope that it will help some people understand more about this star planet. Anyway, so we said this planet, the long tail will look like a snake wrapping its body around a ball of fire. A few weeks later it crosses back, you know, but this time it comes from a higher position to dive back down into space, in a lower position to the ecliptic plane. Okay. One other thing which is very important is on the first crossing, you know, in the first opportunity, the first event of the crossing, which is more important than the second one, there will be collision between the very strong electromagnetic field of the nightcomer, of this destroyer, and that of the Earth. Okay, but there won't be collision. Please don't understand me wrong. I'm not saying that the star will collide physically with the Earth. No, that's not what it is. Sorry. So the destroyer, the first collision will cause a first shout. They call it a shout. It's a kind of supersonic boom, but this one it would be very, very loud, that will come the night previous to the day of the flyby, okay? So the previous night to the flyby, people will hear this very strong supersonic boom, and the narration in the Islamic literature, they say, those who are asleep will wake up, those who are sitting will stand up, and then there'll be a lot of confusion, because all the beings on this planet will resent that boom, you know, that the sound, they will resent it within them. Anyway, so, and it's going to be a life-changing event. Events that the people never heard of before, okay? So the collision of electromagnetic field of Nibiru with that of the Earth will cause the flip-flop, because a lot of people are talking about the pole shift, but actually on the night, the previous night to the flyby, when the destroyer comes to proximity with Earth, the electromagnetic field will try to pull that of the Earth, and it will cause the flip-flop, the reversal of the poles. So we are not talking about a magnetic shift. We are talking literally basically about this flip-flop. That means the North Pole goes into the position of the South Pole, and vice versa. So, and as consequence, the next day, that means the day of the flyby, the sun will rise from the west, and it will remain so. So the whole position, the whole orbit, Earth will orbit into the opposite direction. So for us on the surface of the Earth, we'd see the rise of the sun from the west. This is also an important point where a lot of people don't talk about. And of course there are other consequences. The electromagnetic pulse from this planet, the destroyer, it will cause the failure of a lot of electronic devices all over the place. So that's why in Islamic literature they say there will come a day when the people won't have access to this sophisticated technology that we are having around us today. Okay, the day, that's what they speak about. So the only explanation for that is this event that's to take place and will change a lot of things. Now, so the flip-flop will happen in a matter of hours. As the nightcomer continues its flight further and further into the direction of the sun, Earth will become under the impact of the tail, especially the side of the Earth, of the globe Earth, which will be facing the tail. That face of the planet Earth will be impacted a lot heavier than the other side. Okay, so further on, the tail of the piercing star Nibiru, thousands of miles long, so the devastation on the surface of the Earth will be global. It's not going to be just located on that face which is facing the tail. As I said, the prediction that the destruction will be global, but especially that part at the time of the flyby, when the tail closest, you know, and it will be more harmed as the other part which is hidden. Now, The flyby will announce the dawn of celestial new day. So there'll be a new era. It's not going to be the end of the life. Life will continue. And from an Islamic perspective, life will continue at least for another thousands of years. 1,000 years long this new era is called. It is called the last days era, the end times era, or the judgment day. It is also called the first resurrection day. Well, there is here an information that's not talked about in the internet, and you never hear about that, as consequence of the flyby and this collision of the electromagnetic field of the destroyer with the electromagnetic field of the earth. There'll be a rise of the dead from their graves. Okay, that's not the only thing. The flip-flop also will open what's called the gate of Gog and Magog, and these are the armies of the Antichrist, who are kept at bay from crossing to the surface of the earth. So the flip-flop is basically like you take a cup and you flip it upside down. Okay, so all of the earth is already under the impact, because all the symptoms that the people are noticing and reporting, the floodings, receding waters in some parts of the world, wildfires, volcano eruption. Okay, so these are the symptoms, and these symptoms will increase and will increase. So let us go further and see from a Muslim perspective all the weird and strange events that are happening and are to even increase in frequency and intensity the more the dark star gets closer, are not a surprise, since we were already informed about them by our beloved Prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, and his descent. These events are called the major sign preceding the new celestial day. Okay, so these major signs are indicators. They already started happening back in 2000, in the year 2000, with the beginning of the millennium, and they became very obvious in 2005. Today, December 2017, we are seeing it all around us in the four corners of the earth. And actually the truth is that we are all overwhelmed due to these natural calamities from around the world, aren't we? Among the major signs to precede the coming of Nibiru, shortly before the flyby. This is an important point, because I'm gonna bring up two events that did not take place, but the expectation now, they are gonna happen soon, sooner than later. Okay, so for the people, for the deniers, here is something to grab on and watch closely these two events. The first is, it's about a large-scale earthquake in the Arabic Peninsula, which caused a lot of calamities. It's going to be thousands of dead people. This predicted large-scale quake will happen starting from South Turkey through the Golan Heights in Syria, reaching Lebanon and North Palestine. The logo of this devastation, of this devastating quake, will be the destruction of the eastern wall of the great mosque in Damascus. This is one of the first built mosques. It's a very ancient, like you have also ancient church from the early Christian in Syria. While this mosque, they call it the Fatimid Mosque, has been built about 1,000 years ago. We'll see the destruction and the fall of the minaret. Okay, so this did not occur yet in Damascus, but it's going to be an indicator that the time is very close for the flyby. Another major imminent indicator that the destroyer is around the corner is the rise of water level, a flood of the city of Basra in Iraq, of Basra. You know, depends how you pronounce that. It's the town of Basra in Iraq, a real disaster for the people of Basra. The day when you hear that there is a flood in that part of the world, it means that Nibiru, or the destroyer, is not far. It is around the corner, okay? And there's a lot more description in the literature, Islamic literature. By now, I can imagine, of course, many people who are located geographically far away from the Middle East and the Arabic Peninsula say, yeah, why are you telling me this in the Middle East? It is all connected, you know. And the Arabic Muslim literature talks more about the Middle East. But there is also mention about other parts of the world. I'm going to come back later to that. So please bear with me. Okay, so few weeks before the flyby, so we had that big sign of the flood in Basra in Iraq, but now comes here the imminent and bigger even sign. You know, this is very close to the event of the flyby, which will be a thick smog, a cloud-like, that will fall on the surface of the earth, and it will enrobe the surface of the earth all over the world. Okay, so now we are talking about 2-3 weeks before the event itself. So this did not happen yet, but watch this sign because it's very important. In the meanwhile, the speed of the Earth rotation around itself will gradually decrease. Then, for one day, which will seem like an eternity, Earth will cease rotating around itself. Man will notice it the previous night to the crossing. Okay? So many people, you know, when they hear this, they will say, well, these are fairy tales and all that. We will see. I mean, there are many people who will appreciate this information because these are very important indicators. And the deniers, you know, even if you brought to them, even if they saw this planet Nibiru flying above their heads, they won't believe you. They say, no, that's not what it is. They will come up with another. You know, you have many people who speak about the flat earth. And I don't understand. You know, and you know, the other day a friend of mine was saying, oh, have you heard about the theory of people claiming that the earth is flat? Well, I say, you know, in order to convince me of this, bring me some picture of the edge of the earth. I would like to see that. And, you know, ask those people to go and take some picture of the edge of the earth and bring them back. Then you know what they will do? They will start, you know, from a point A, going westward or eastward, looking for the edge, but at the end they will find themselves back on the same place where they left. Okay. Anyway, that's another topic. I'm not here to debate about the flat earth because I found that really a waste of time. Anyway, so according to the Islamic prophecies, the crossing or the flyby of the nightcomer will happen on a Friday, okay? So the flip-flop will occur on a Thursday night previous to the Friday, and the Friday of the crossing is going to be the 15th of the holy month of Ramadan, because in Islam the year and the months our calendar is a lunar calendar, okay? So the crossing will happen on a Friday, and it's going to be the holy month of Ramadan, and the year of the crossing is going to be a relatively cold year compared to the average. So in Islamic year we have 12 lunar months. Each year the months they start and end on a different date on the solar calendar. You know, compared to the Gregorian calendar, it's not the same. So to give you an example of that, the holy month of Ramadan, let us say for instance for this year it started on the 21st of April. Well, the next year is not going to be that same date, okay? Why? Simply because there is a difference of approximately 11 days between the lunar calendar and the Gregorian calendar. The official begin of the holy month of Ramadan relies on the sightseeing of the crescent moon, or the new moon of the new lunar month. So therefore it is practically impossible to predict the exact year, you know, especially when the prophecies they were made thousands of years, 1,400 years ago. Anyway, but keeping in mind the condition, if the first day of the holy month of Ramadan happens to be a Friday, then automatically the 15th will be also a Friday. So watching closely the indicators of the year and the imminent signs which will precede the flyby, one would be able to tell, okay? And I mean, today if you watch all the report and the information on YouTube and on other places, I mean, you see there's something wrong, there's something you know, not normal at all. And for those, you know, who say, oh, you know, I would only believe only if I see, well, there are many things actually which does exist, but we cannot see them, okay? It is like a woman, a pregnant woman, you say that lady is pregnant, you know, because she's showing signs of pregnancy. No, I don't believe that. I want to see the baby. Well, you know, you can see the baby if you do have ultrasound, if you do have sophisticated devices in order to see that. But without that, just look at the signs. And I mean, the signs are all around us. Earth is about to give birth. Everything is changing, you know, the volcanic eruption and the floodings and all the rest. So let's continue. Now, another important aspect of the year to keep in mind is the fact that it will be a relative cold year. The flyby will happen during a year when a global war is in full gear, okay? So does the title World War III ring a bell here? This war has already started indirectly. That means the powers, the two powers who have this war, they are not fighting it directly. It started indirectly. About 3-4 years ago, when the Houthi rebels stole the power in Yemen, and what's taking place in Syria, that was the begin. Soon this war will be officially declared between the two real opponents, Saudi Arabia and Iran. For those who are following the news, a few weeks ago we saw that something big happened in Saudi Arabia, that 11 royal princes were discarded, and they do have internal problems. But actually, according to some analysts, this is because they wanted to have funds to fund this coming war. The Saudi are preparing themselves for that. And the two real opponents are the Saudi from one side and the Persian, the Iranian from another side. The Saudi, they claim that they are Sunni, and the other one are Shia. It's like you do have Christian Catholics, and you have the Protestant and the Orthodox, different opinions, different. So the recent events which took place in Saudi Kingdom are a major indicator that both parties mean business. And there is a high probability that the official war is going to start by next spring, 2018. Okay? Alliances are being already formed between the pro-Iranian nation, like Russia joining, the same alliance with Iran, China, many other countries also, and the pro-Saudi like Israel, the United States, Egypt, and other nations. Troops are being mobilized, armies are set parade for the coming war. They're all waiting, for the get-go, for the sign to start this war. Even though the beginning of this war will be local to the region of the Persian Gulf, but it won't take long before the local circle will widen and become larger. More nations are going to be involved, because this war, which will start in the Middle East, it will have the Labina effect, a snowball. Okay? It's going to become a global war. From an Islamic perspective, there won't be use of nuclear weaponry. Nevertheless, it is predicted that there will be a nuclear explosion in the east, in the far east of the globe, that will drive mass population to flee to the west. Could it be that North Korea is going to launch a nuke? We have to wait and see. The coming war in the Middle East will give birth to Armageddon. That's the end of this war. But before we reach the time of Armageddon, this war, once it starts in the Middle East, it won't take long before the common people from around the world will have the deepest regrets to have allowed this war to take place. Why? Simply because the prices of everything basically gonna shoot up. Gas, food. It is now already today, today if we look the death of animals on lands, schools of fish are dying all over the place. So there is already shortage in food, and automatically what will happen, the prices will shoot up everything will become more expensive. And when this war will start in the Middle East, it's a matter of few months, and the people will resent that in their pockets. So the bills are going to be very high, to the point that the people cannot pay their bills anymore. Okay? So people will resent that, and that's when you will have the riots starting. So all the people who are talking about martial laws and everything, if you follow this scenario, the precursors, what will cause, the riots of the people? Why did they prepare in the United States for this? Because they knew something is gonna come, something big is gonna happen. Okay. Jade Helm, that's been prepared. That's for this reason, because they know once this war in the Middle East have started, as I said, it won't take long before the repercussion will hit all the four corners of the earth. All the nations will suffer of this. Okay, and that will lead people to riot and to demonstrate and all that, and even to resort to violence. And that's when the state of martial law will be imposed in different parts of the world. I'm not only talking about the United States. So the world economy is already a big mess. In recent years, strange and weird things are taking place all over the globe. Floodings, as I said, water receding, ocean water receding, droughts. Imagine a year or two from now. So when the coming war is being waged, high probability the beginning of the coming spring 2018. Citizens will be on their knees begging their leaders to end the war. But it's too late. Life becomes impossible. Then here comes the killer shot of the Red Star, of the destroyer. Okay? So that means that we are already struggling, surviving, and then we'll get the killer shot, the flyby, because the flyby, as I said, will even triple or quadruple the disaster that we are already witnessing today, because it's going to increase. Okay? And at the same time, the nations are fighting each other. So does this picture ring a bell? All nations in confrontation, and big chaos all over the place, and someone will appear at a time when the chaos plagues, shortage of resources and food, and this person will come in the name of peace. Okay, so or could it be that this coming war is being orchestrated and meticulously crafted and synchronized with the incoming destroyer, the night comer? Okay, or is it accidental? Is it accidental? I don't think there are any coincidences. So this is for sure being orchestrated, and everything has got its time. There is a planning. There's someone who is planning this. The global elites, or what you call them, the cabal, they got their orders from the top, or better said, from beneath, because they get their orders from their master, whom they call father. Okay, their father. and we'll speak about that later. Otherwise, we're going to get offline here. So, but they got the orders to dig the tunnels. They started, digging these underground cities, whether it is in Russia and China and Japan and Australia and the United States, even Europe. They do have these bunkers and underground cities. And so the point is, if you ask yourself, how come that they had a deadline where everything had to be ready by that deadline, which actually expired a few months ago, okay, as we speak. So efforts now are focused on filling those cities with supplies, with food, and so this phase of building is already done. So that means we are very close. And there is no need to talk about the seed fault in Norway, in Greenland, So I'm trying here to bring some new information which is not mentioned. And there's a lot more very, very important, interesting information. So the question is the following. If you, the listeners, if you were one of the elites, would you have the global war start before the crossing event or after? Please don't tell me they don't know what will happen during the crossing and after it. They are very, very well informed. They know exactly what's going to happen. And they know the severity and the dangers that are coming with this flyby and this crossing. So, having that knowledge, if they have to decide, what would they choose for? Because they know when this flyby will happen, then we'll have shower of meteorites and a lot of weaponry will not function anymore. And mobilizing the troops will be very hard because the whole earth, we are talking here about mega tsunamis, the rise of new continents, the disappearance of parts of the continents all over the world. So they know, and they do have the order to start this war, to synchronize it with the event. So we are going to see the flyby happen while this war is in full gear first. And that did not happen. But it does not mean it's not going to happen, because all the signs are pointing towards that this war is very imminent. Okay? So, please understand, I'm not saying that the global elites and their commander-in-chief have control over the flyby event or on the earth changes. Yeah, maybe to a certain extent, but not the volcano eruption and the floodings and all that stuff. So they don't have really full control on that. That's more the result of the destroyer, the Nibiru, closing up to Earth. It is crucial to understand that the global elites are in close contact with their commander-in-chief. Whether you call him Lucifer or you call him Enki, he does have got a few other names. According to the Islamic literature, we are talking about the King Marut, because you have two leaders for these beings who are giving orders, and the most important one is Enki, who is actually himself Satan. It's Lucifer. We talk about that on another opportunity, because it's a very big topic. It needs few hours, in order to bring up details. So they listen and they take orders from their commander-in-chief. They receive information and orders how to proceed in order to achieve the greatest success to their agenda. So who are the global elites in truth? Who are they? Who are they working for? Who is their commander-in-chief? What's the goal of their agenda? What do they want to achieve? And why the cover-up? Why the truth embargo? Okay? Well, the truth embargo simply because they know on the event of the crossing, the great deception is going to begin the same day of the flyby. Okay? Because the chief in command of the global elite will come in the name of peace, and he will bring the solution with him. So that's what they claim, and that's what a lot of people are going to buy into this big deception. Anyway, so please let this information sink in first, and understand that the commander-in-chief of these global elites is considered to be their father, their God. They are waiting impatiently for his coming because the elites believe he will give them eternal life. Therefore, they are willing to do anything to execute his commandments and pave for his coming. Their knowledge is derived from the secret teaching of the morning star, bringer of the light to the world. How is this information relevant to the planet Nibiru? Some of you would ask. It is all interrelated, okay? It is all interrelated. There is all relation between the Antichrist, who is the leader of the global elites, the New World Order. Once you start seeing the relation by connecting the dots, all the pieces of the puzzle will fall into their place. Okay. So we went through that already. Another point which is very important, is that the flip-flop of the earth, I mentioned that previously, will cause events that you never hear on the internet, like the rise of the dead, the opening of the gate of Gog and Magog. So for the Christian, actually, there is mention of the bottomless pit. Many people read the bottomless pit, but they don't understand the meaning of it. I will discuss that in another time, in another video. But for now, what I wanted you to know is the fact that that the Nightcomer, or Planet X, have started already causing a lot of global natural disaster with all the consequences, food shortages, death of ocean life, the death of animals on the surface of the earth, death of birds. Then the drums for the World War III are already beating. Once this World War III will start, then we'll have financial collapse, worldwide social unrest, martial law, and then during all that we'll get the crossing of the destroyer, okay, the killer shot, and then immediately with the destroyer we'll have the visitors coming back. Some people, they call them the Anunnaki, you know, but let us say the begin of the great deception. And as end, I would say humanity could not have asked for more. See you next time. Thank you for listening, and blessing to you all.